We're not the suits that talk football. We're the dudes that know football. And you've just crossed over into the trend zone. Dave here with Casey. We are the football dudes. Are you ready, brother?
You got that right, my friend.
You've just crossed
Those are my
over.
ready fingers.
Oh, you just crossed over into the trend zones. Wednesday, January 15th, coming at you from Los Angeles, California. And it is 65 and sunny. Uh, there's still fires are burning somewhere,
Mm.
I'm sure, but man, devastation here in LA. Hope everybody is well out there. I know there's a lot of crazy weather phenomena happening. In today's episode, we'll talk about the coaching carousel spinning on, Little Survivor, and of course, we'll get to previewing all of the awesome games in the divisional round. But Casey, we cannot take a trip into the trend zone
Mm.
without a tasty nug for the people.
You know that I got the nugs for the people, Dave. Come on now. While only the Detroit Rock City Lions are making a repeat appearance in the NFC divisional round, in the AFC, all four teams from last year's divisional round are returning. You might remember last year, the 3 seed Kansas City Chiefs beat the 2 seed Buffalo Bills 27-24, and the number 1 seeded Baltimore Ravens beat CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans 34-10. We're switching those matchups for this weekend. We're going to get into that, but a little extra nug, Dave. This is the 5th straight appearance in that divisional round for the Bills and the Chiefs. Wow.
Wow, that's continued excellence,
Mm-hmm.
and also, frustration for the Bills, I assume, since they haven't actually cashed in on all those appearances there. All right, folks, Trend Zone is available for subscription: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcast. Casey, let's get it to the top trending stories. It's the coaching carousel. There were 7 head coaching jobs available. Those were the Jets, Saints, Bears, Patriots, Jaguars, Raiders, and Cowboys. Um, and wow, um, what's going on here with your boys, Casey?
Well, if you listen to Troy Aikman, that's not a coveted job, although I completely disagree with Troy on that. I think it's a highly coveted job. Dave, don't forget there's only 32 of these
Right.
in the entire world. Someone will want to come to Big D and get that job. Um, it's weird though, the timing of all this is completely weird. We knew Big Mike's contract expired on the 14th, and there was no word after the season, and then there was a negotiating period. I guess those went south. There's rumors everywhere. One speculation is that they wanted Jason Witten to be the heir apparent to Big Mike. I'm
Huh.
not sure I believe that, or maybe it was the length of the contract or these escalator clauses for success in the postseason, which eluded Big Mike while he was in Dallas. So nonetheless, the Cowboys are in that mix. If you've been living under a rock, you might not know about the discussions going on with Deion Sanders, prime time. Lots of speculation on who that job will go to. Jera's on a hunt by himself to get the coach, so who knows
Wow.
what the hell is going to happen there.
All righty. Well, that is an interesting turn of events. Like you said, they didn't take care of business right on that Black Monday, like a lot of people did. But we'll see now that that Cowboys job is open. Coveted is one thing, but it's also compared to these other jobs as well. There's a handful of jobs, and all of these teams are in different sort of statuses. However, there was one job that was filled, Casey.
Yeah, that's Mike Vrabel going back home to the Patriots. And I think Vrabel's availability might have been the last push to get Mayo out of there. This is one of Robert Kraft's beloved all time Patriots.
Hmm.
Was able to, get the Titans maybe further than they should have gone with the kind of
Seemingly,
talent that they had.
yeah.
And you always knew that they were going to play hard. You liked Vrabel's demeanor on the sideline and the way that the Titans played. So the Patriots could definitely use some of that. So that is one vacancy closed down right away. And I think that's actually going to be a pretty damn good hire. So Patriots got their guy and they got the pick sitting there too coming up. So it'll be interesting to see what they do up at the close to the top of the draft.
Right, no question about that. You would assume they've got their quarterback in place, so
Mhm.
they're in a good spot there to pick the one of the top positions. Whatever position they're coveting there, or try and trade back and see if they can gather up some additional picks.
That didn't work so well for them the last few years in the Belichick era. So maybe they just stay put and get the BPA right there.
Yeah, and obviously a short leash, obviously for the one and done Mayo there, the heir apparent. But obviously, we didn't see Vrabel getting fired last year, and then
Mm,
suddenly he was available. Took that year off to, uh, to sort of take things in, and this is an awesome landing spot. I think it's a
absolutely.
good situation for both parties.
Big
All right,
time.
Case. Moving on to the three strike survivor. If there's anyone still out there.
Yeah, if you're going into the postseason, you're a sicko, but we here at the Football Dudes can appreciate that sickness because we're inflicted a little bit of ourselves. So, if you were playing Baltimore over the Pittsburgh Steelers, was the most popular correct pick at over 30%.
Yeah. How about last week's most popular incorrect pick?
Plug your
Uh,
ears, Dave. Earmuffs, Dave. That would
uh,
be our Los Angeles Chargers at the Houston Texans. The Chargers, or I said the Houston Texans, took down 20% of the country for not believing in the 4 seed there.
Looking ahead to next week, Casey. What do you got?
It's the Chefs over those Texans at almost over 45%. If you use the Chefs this week, that means you do not think they are going to the Super Bowl or winning the Super Bowl, I should
That's
say.
right.
So,
Yeah. So it's tricky business at this point when you
mhm.
can't reuse teams and there's less and less teams to choose from. So definitely you don't want to outsmart yourself. Just make it to
No.
the next round and then hopefully you can, survive. That's what it's all about,
Got to
survival.
do it, baby. Just got to make it.
All right, Casey, it is time for the game previews. It is the divisional round. Is week 20, the divisional round of the NFL playoffs.
Wait, what did you say?
Divisional round, Casey.
Week 20?
Week 20 of the
It's
season.
slipping away, Dave.
It certainly is. It gets started on Saturday,
Oh,
Casey.
yeah, baby. It is those Houston Texans, the winners of the AFC South, at the Kansas City Chiefs, the winners of the AFC West. The Chiefs at home are 7.5 point favorites in this game, Dave. But before we get to the Chiefs, let's talk about these Texans and Chargers. What are some of your takeaways from last week in that game?
Yeah, nice performance from the Texans squad there. Really good defensive performance. Really put a ton of pressure on Herbert, as their defense has done all year. Um, and picked him off 4 times, which is amazing, and sacked him 4 times as well. So, um, got to say, ultimately, a real nice performance from these Texans. Also, Joe Mixon over 100 yards, kind of got it going there as they
Mhm.
were dominating the football game towards the end. Nico Collins was their big play guy, 122 yards and a touchdown there. So, really nice performance. CJ Stroud resorted back to the awesome CJ Stroud and really
Every
got things
time.
going on. Good for him, right? Hopefully, he can do it this weekend and make this one a fun one.
Yeah, what really impressed me about those Texans were was the defense, right? Chargers
Yeah,
come down right away. We think, oh man, this is going to be a long day for the Texans. They kind of bow up, force the field goal there. And
yeah,
then on the day, and this has been a problem symptomatic to the Chargers all year long, when they ran the ball well, they won games. When they didn't
right.
run the ball well, they lost games. Only about 50 yards in this game, and it's just not enough in the playoffs. Putting too much on Herbert, and
Yeah,
then you're letting Anderson go crazy on your quarterback. Not a good formula for success.
no doubt about it, and really they shut down the entire receiving core of the Chargers minus Lad McConkey, who had a pretty awesome statistical game. The other receivers combined for like 2 catches and 14 yards, so they did an unbelievable job in coverage there, making it a tough day for Herbert and the Chargers. Oh,
All right. So moving forward, go ahead and talk. We talked a little bit about CJ Stroud. Joe Mixon adds a whole new element to this squad that they didn't really have last year. What do they have to do to be competitive against the Chiefs?
yeah, I mean, it's what we were talking about. Mixon got 100 yards last week, and early in the season when they were rolling in the first 6 or 7 games, he was regularly getting 100 yards. And I think in some of their times where they haven't performed as well, it's when they're not able to establish that ground game. So they got a lot of those yards in the second half. They're going to want to try and establish that early, but get those balls out of CJ Stroud's hands for some quick slants like they did last week. I thought that kind of got the offense going, and then they were able to sneak in the runs here and there. And as the game progressed, the runs got to be bigger and bigger runs, and
Mhm.
they were able to lean on that running game more and more. That's the same formula that they're going to try and use against this Chiefs team um, this week. It's got to be at some point or another. You have to establish that they can run the football.
Yeah, now that Chiefs defense was pretty banged up, specifically Chris Jones. But dude, this cat hasn't had to play football in almost a month. They should be well rested. And we know about Andy Reid coming off the bye week. We've seen the Chiefs, though, been able to get run on. Do you anticipate that being trouble for these Chiefs?
I mean, Spags has done such a great job with this Chiefs defense. Really, they're eighth in the league, giving up rushing yards per game at 100 and just about 102 yards a game defensively. So if they can hold the Texans to that, they'll be in great shape there. Also, I mean, points per game. The Chiefs, one of the best teams, just over 19 points per game. So they get stingy when it gets down close to the red zone there. And total yards per game, ninth in the league defensively for the Chiefs. So all in all, it's going to be a tough battle for CJ Stroud and Mixon and company to really get that offense going.
Mhm.
But hopefully, their defense can kind of do their job and keep them hanging around in this football game.
These teams played in week 16. It was in Kansas City. The Chiefs won that one 27-19. Um, the Chiefs just dealt with a bunch of injuries through the season, but kind of had just like this malaise because they knew when real football had to be done. They started coming out of that shell last couple weeks of the
Yeah.
season before they sat the starters. And now Patrick Mahomes, like back to back, pretty killer performances moving into the postseason.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And they really, we talked about Kelsey and his like role on this team as it's gone from the beginning of the year where he was kind of almost non-existent. Like, oh, he's gone. He's past his prime. Oh no, the second half of the season and heading towards the playoffs is when now we see Kelsey is that dude that always
Mhm.
knows how to find the seams in the zone defense, how to get open on man, how to move the chains when they need it. So. Yeah, it's this team has got a lot of different weapons they can get you with, but it's all about Mahomes and his way to just find a way to get that next first down.
Yeah, and this is probably going to be the healthiest they've been at running back through the season, too. Pacheco obviously goes down early in the season. They bring in Kareem Hunt, who did serviceable job. They also had Samaje Perine, more of like a third down back. But Pacheco should be healthy. Hunt should be healthy. They're both able to catch the ball out of the backfield.
Yeah,
Same with Samaje Perine there. And weapons wise at wideout, is there going to be enough to deal with that Texans secondary? They did a pretty good job of locking your Chargers down. Can
yeah.
they do the same thing against these
Well,
Chiefs?
I mean, it's Xavier Worthy has emerged, and the speed that he brings threatens the defense. DeAndre Hopkins is that veteran presence that knows how to find the spots. Hollywood Brown is coming back into the mix here,
Mhm.
so I think they're figuring they'll have plenty of weapons. Obviously, like I mentioned, to go along with Kelsey, and the ground game seems to be at sort of full strength now with their players there, and this Houston's defense is they're going to have their hands full, but they are really good. Sixth in
Mhm.
the league in total yards given up, sixth in the league against the pass, and 11th against the rush. So ultimately, they also when they can put you in the down and distance where they know you're going to pass. There's fourth in the league in sacks and second in interceptions. So um, that's what they're going to have to want to do. Try and shut down that Chiefs running game on early downs and find a way to, you got to be careful when you're rushing Mahomes. He's
Got to, dude.
got to use discipline,
I guarantee you one at least once on Saturday, it's going to be a 3rd and 13, 3rd and 17 for the Chiefs.
and he
And
gets,
Mahomes
yeah,
get
yeah,
whatever he needs.
one
It's going to be
more
a one.
yard than they
Yeah.
need.
Yeah. So I
Yeah, he's
feel like the
deadly like
yeah, the
that.
Texans will be overwhelmed in this game, but who knows? We'll see what they
Right.
put together. If they can not make any mistakes, if they can get Joe Mixon going, force the Chiefs into some passing situations where they can let those guys get after Mahomes, then who knows? But man,
Win the
Andy
turnover
Reid,
battle. That
yeah,
I mean, there's
on a
there's plenty.
bye
Yeah,
at home against a team that's won, 3 out of the last 4 Super Bowls or whatever it's been.
Right.
It's
And we
ugh.
know, like you said, Andy Reid coming off of a bye, his record is ridiculous.
Mhm.
I mean,
Oh,
it's out of this world. So, yep, cards are stacked against this Texans team, but there'll be a lot of red there in the stadium.
so much red.
Red alert.
Awesome. What about the nightcap on Saturday?
All right, that was a good one, man. It is the Washington Commanders at the Detroit Lions. Lions are at home, favored by 9.5 in the Saturday evening game. These teams didn't meet each other in the regular season, so we're just going on what they've done, what their sort of their whole resume is. But let's get it started, Casey.
Yeah, and Washington coming off a very emotional win last week on the
Woo!
road in Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels, when the money was on the table, he snatched it right off of there. They beat the Bucs 23-20 on that doink field goal there
Wow.
at the end. I'm wondering if a week, well, just short of a week, is enough for them to recover from the emotional high of that game coming in literally and figuratively into the lion's den. Oh, oh, you like that?
Hey, clever, clever. Yeah, you know what, Casey? I liked what they were able to do last week. The Commanders offensively, getting both Eckler and Robinson going a little bit, both in the passing and the running game. So they contributed. And were able to put together some yards, and then of course Jaden Daniels using his own legs to get a handful of yards there too. So. Scary Terry, Diami Brown had a really nice game last week as well, contributing there. Zach Ertz can play a significant role, possibly. So there's a lot of nice weapons here for the Commanders. Also, on the other side of the football, really, Commanders defensively last week did a great job, containing Bucky Irving, holding
Mhm.
him to 77 yards rushing there. And Bucky Irving had been tearing it up. So that's pretty impressive on that side as well. So that game was so close, came down to kind of that turnover there uh, late in the game, and the Commanders were able to capitalize, just getting that field goal in there.
Yeah, it was a brutal time for a fumble. Baker took
Yeah,
the responsibility for that.
right.
Just
Yeah,
brutal.
that's what.
80% passing in that game. Just didn't get enough opportunities. You mentioned
Yeah,
that Washington defense shutting down Bucky Irving on the year, 30th against the run. So they have given up a lot on the ground. And that is bad news because the last time we saw these Lions, they were in the middle of kicking the shit out of the Vikings. And the
yeah.
main culprit was Jameer Gibbs running all over those guys, bro.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And when you're talking about the Lions there, their offense is an absolute juggernaut, right? I mean, they are number one in points scored at over 33. You talk about their running game, they're sixth in the league rushing, second passing. So total yards, they're second in the league, almost 410 yards a game. And in time of possession, when you run the ball well and you move the chains like that, of course you do well in time of possession. They're second best in the league at 32 plus minutes per game. So when this offense gets going, I mean, there's tons of weapons to choose from
Mhm.
for Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator there. So, man, they can really, really be exciting and fun to watch if you like offensive football.
Yeah, that's it if you like it. And you know what I love about this Detroit Lions team and Ben Johnson specifically, dude, is those set up plays and the beginning of the play looks the same, but then once
Yeah.
it unfolds, it's completely different. How many Lions games have you seen where there's just a guy wide open running across the
Oh,
field
yeah.
with nobody even close? That Jamison Williams speed is absolutely ludicrous, dude. Amon-Ra St. Brown, one of the best, possession receivers, does all that grimy
Yeah.
work underneath. You throw in Laporta, and you got Jameer Gibbs coming out of the backfield, dude,
Yeah.
and all the other complimentary players. This and Jared Goff on the carpet at the Dome is
Woo.
put together maybe his best season as a pro, especially at home, dude.
Yeah, I mean, no question about it. Goff has been brilliant this year. Along the way, we were talking MVP. Now it's kind of he's kind of faded out of that, but he's had some spectacular performances this year. And it's an offense that scores more points than any other offense. So um, you got to give a lot of credit to the quarterback there. And you're right, Ben Johnson sure as hell can scheme it up and use the weapons to get guys some real, get Goff some easy completions where his guys have room and space to work and get some yards after the catch.
And going into that last week of the season, I was a little bit worried about that Detroit defense after they gave up 34 points to the Niners in
Yeah,
week 17. But what they did against those Vikings was completely impressive. And they might give stuff up, but they also get those turnovers. They make the play at critical times. Aaron Glenn's a name that's out there right now getting a lot of love for potential head coaching jobs. So this might be the last run of this team with this coaching staff intact. So they better get out there and do it.
yeah.
You got to watch the Jaden Daniels when he breaks out of the pocket. I'm sure they're fully aware of that. But like I come back to, I don't know if they can get up emotionally again after last week's game. That will be very interesting to see what happens.
No question about it, man. They put it all together last week, and they're kind of maybe a year ahead of schedule there on sort of a rebuild, new head coach, new quarterback, etc. Versus this Lions team that's sort of all right. We've been here, we've done
Mhm.
this, and now we're ready to take that next step.
Absolutely, man. It is going to be good. I cannot wait to see that one. And Dave, we flip it over, you get to Sunday's action. We're going to go ahead and start in the NFC there too. It is our Los Angeles Rams at the Philadelphia Eagles, and those dirty, dirty birds are 6-point favorites at home. This is a rematch from week 12 when the
Right.
Eagles stomped the Rams 37-20. That was in LA. This one's going to be at the link, Dave. But what did you love most? And there's a lot of stuff to choose from about that Rams performance on Monday night when they kicked the shit out of those Vikings.
Wow, man, there was so much to like. I mean, start for me with Stafford. It just like he was so comfortable in control back there. Looked like those first, couple of drives he was just an absolute surgeon back there
Mhm.
working his magic. He ended up with a 117.7 game. It wasn't prolific. I mean, 209 yards, two touchdowns, but just seems so efficient and precise there. But you also look at the other side, their defense, that front can really, really get after the quarterback. And boy, did they put a beat down on Sam Darnold, man. It was just
I
um,
think 9 sacks.
yeah, it was relentless, and ultimately, it's the pass rush complements the secondary, the coverage complements the pass rush, and there was nobody open, and Darnold was running out of time fast there. So, both sides of the football, the Rams played an absolutely spectacular game. If they can do that, man, look out for our Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, and we didn't even get to Kyron Williams, dude. He's got more, I think, percentage of a team's offensive output than anybody. And when
Right,
he touches the ball on like over 40%, he had that first touchdown early on that kind of set the tone, and it wasn't running it, it was catching it out of the backfield.
right,
But you could count on this guy to get whatever you need out of him. And just, dude, Puka Nakua is so fun to freaking watch, dude,
yeah.
quickly becoming one of my favorite players in the league, man. And when he's healthy and Cup is healthy, this offense is dangerous, dude. And you
Yeah.
mentioned, Stafford precision, dude.
Whew. Yeah, Cup was had only one catch in last week's game, but it was a huge one. It was a 29-yarder that moved the chains there at a pivotal time. So another guy we want to take a just wonder. Higby had a nice game there, but got a little banged up as well. So hopefully he'll be good to go in this one.
Yeah, he was. I think they said he was spitting up blood, went and got
Oh,
checked out, and he said, rub some dirt on it, and I'll try to be back next week. Now you flip it over to these Eagles going into that game last week. I was a little worried about Jalen Hurts because he'd been in the concussion protocol, hadn't seen the field in a while,
long
and
time,
they
yeah.
didn't get that much going offensively, but just enough, and when they had to have it.
Yeah, I mean they were really stagnant offensively, but this was, I guess, just the tone of this game was very defensive and sluggish. But yeah, just 13 completions for 131 yards and two touchdowns for Hertz. A good efficiency, but not obviously a hell of a lot when you just have 13 completions. Um, it just seemed like one catch for AJ Brown for 10 yards. And of course, he was busy reading. But when he was out there, just one catch. Devonta Smith did have 4 grabs there. Um, and Saquon, he got it going ultimately, but it took a while. It seemed
Yeah.
like it
It was
was
a
also.
quiet 120, Dave. Is that
Yeah, yeah, let's
possible?
put it that way, right. Yeah, that's a good way to phrase it there. But yeah, just not a heck of a dominant performance. Didn't look like everybody was hitting on all cylinders or anything,
Mm-mm.
but they were able to take care of business, and ultimately, it was a pretty strong performance, all said and done.
Yeah, and you wanna talk dominant performance, you gotta look on the other side of that ball for those Eagles, man. That defense was out of control
Yeah,
against the Packers, shutting them down. It was 22-10 total, 3 interceptions for Jordan Love. Josh Jacobs got loose, but there was nothing else they really gave up, dude, and, Zach Bond coming over is kinda been like the free agent darling that was undervalued. He's been a heartbeat for this team, but man, it was tough sledding to get anything going against that Eagles defense last week for
yeah.
the Packers.
Yeah, and when we talk about this Eagles defense and the team in general, this is one of the most balanced teams. This is why they can be so dangerous because so many different elements of their team they're top notch on. Number 1 in yards per game defensively given up. Number 2 in points per game given up. So hello, you're not gaining yards and you're not getting points. They're 10th versus the rush and 13th in sacks. They're number 1 pass defense in the league. So this is a real solid defense. So um, it is tough to get anything going, but we'll see. This the way this Rams team played last week, man. They were lighting it up. So it was pretty
Yeah,
exciting.
and I'm pretty sure Nakobe Dean is done for the
Yeah,
year for
they,
these Eagles, so that is a big time
big
loss.
loss.
And the Eagles have not lost at home since have they lost at home this year? I don't know that they lost at home. Oh yeah, they lost against Atlanta week 2.
Wow.
So Philly, man, they're putting it all together. If you can slow down Saquon, easier said than done, you're
Right.
gonna have a chance. Um, but if the LA Rams play defense like they did last week, that's what I didn't expect out of that game was
Right.
just we know we've seen Verse and Fisk and getting stuff going, but even Neville Gallimore, my Sooner former Cowboy, it was relentless, dude. There's a couple stills of Sam Darnold out there with eyes just humongous
Yeah.
because there was just nowhere to go with the football and
Yeah.
pressure just closing in on him.
And again, back to the Eagles offensively, they're they're not a very good passing team as when it's all said and done, but Hertz contributes in the running game and Saquon, and they ultimately end up being a very strong run team, second best in the league. That gives them time of possession. So ultimately, they're going to want to run the ball, grind it out, and slow down that Rams offense. Then on the other side, like you said, unleash that defense.
Yeah.
Hopefully the loss of Nakobe Dean isn't too significant for them. But you know, they're going to want to control the football offensively, and then hopefully be able to attack defensively.
And when Jalen Hurts does get outside the pocket, force him to the sideline. Do not let him get upfield. You can make
Yeah,
him make some mistakes there.
yeah,
And if you force him the game onto his shoulders instead of Saquon's legs, then you might be cooking there. But that's going to be a tough task for the Rams. But
right.
it
Yeah.
should be an awesome game. Speaking of awesome games, Dave, lay it on me, baby.
Up next, it is the AFC. It is the Baltimore Ravens at the Buffalo Bills. This one's Sunday afternoon. The Ravens are a road favorite in this one by 1. It was a week 3 matchup when these two teams saw each other last, and the Ravens beat the Bills in a blowout 35-10 in that game. Casey, wow, that's a dominant performance. So, what are we expecting in this game?
Well, the Ravens, they just dominated the Steelers too. That game last week was 28-14. There were some moments that it felt like the Steelers might be able to get back in there, but oh my god, dude, this Baltimore Ravens offense. Like in a if Saquon had a quiet 120, Derrick Henry had a loud 186, dude. We're talking 26 carries over 7 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And when he gets that thing going, man, there is just nothing you can
Yeah.
do.
Right.
And if he does that, it's going to be a long day. And then you get Lamar. Lamar had 80 rushing yards in this game too.
Wow.
When those
Yeah.
both of those guys get it going, it's just going to be trouble. And we're talking about these Ravens. They kicked the crap out of the Bills when they played. So
Yeah.
this offense now looks even more potent than it did then. I'm not sure if Flowers is going to be back for this one or not.
It doesn't look like he's going to be, but um, yeah, when you can run for almost 300 yards, then basically that's like the
Why
other
throw?
team's like, yeah, what are we going to do here? If you can't stop the run, and it gets harder and harder to stop this Ravens run game as the game wears on. We know the statistics show that Derrick Henry puts more yards, per quarter. He sort of increases his yards output. And yeah, even if they don't have um, Flowers in this one, there's still some other dudes. Obviously, the trifecta of tight ends there,
Mhm.
Likely, Andrews, and Kohler are all viable weapons. Justice Hill out of the backfield also does a good job receiving the football. Um, as long as Lamar doesn't have like what he said, like play antsy or something like
Mhm.
that, if he just plays within himself, this offense is just really, really hard to stop.
Yeah, dude. And last week, very efficient, 16 to 21, only 175, but 2 touchdowns. But like you said, you had almost 300 yards rushing. You don't need a lot
Hmm,
out of the pass game to do
no,
that.
yeah,
And I am a little bit worried about that Bills defense being able to contain that Ravens offense. We saw what happened last time. And then last week, that Bills defense was actually pretty good. They destroyed the Broncos
yeah,
31-7.
yeah. It was a pretty awesome performance from these Bills last weekend. Overall, obviously, pr- this is a possible MVP battle between these two quarterbacks. But Josh Allen certainly put up his end of the bargain last week 20 of 26, 272, two touchdowns, 135.4 quarterback rating. James Cook ran the ball like crazy, 120 yards and a touchdown. Um, they spread the ball around to a lot of different dudes. Looked like everybody was getting involved in that. Bills offense. But yeah, like you said, their defense really, really took it to Bo Nix and the rookie quarterback completed only 13 passes on the day. It wasn't a total disaster. He ran for 43 yards, but he was the leading rusher, which
Yeah.
never is a good sign unless, of course, it's a super dynamic, rushing quarterback. Nobody else really got it going on the ground, so the Bills were able to shut down the Broncos ground game, which is kind of like, that's what the Broncos want to establish that run and not put it on Bo Nix. Well,
Mm.
the Bills took that away. So that's good news heading into this game. They're coming off a performance where they did play well against the run.
Yeah, but unfortunately for those Bills, Derrick Henry does not play on the Broncos, and he does play for the Ravens there.
Yeah.
Hey, this is gonna be a huge disappointment for, like you said, 2 MVP candidates. Both have not had that postseason success
Yep.
that not necessarily defines a career, but they're both on the precipice of it, and one of these guys is gonna go home on Sunday, and it's just brutal that one of these teams has to lose, but
Yeah.
so much is on these quarterbacks.
No question about it. And both of these teams have had fantastic seasons, and the quarterbacks obviously leading them fantastic. In terms of points scored, they're second and third in the league at 30.5, 30.9 for second and 30.5 for third place. So they're, I mean, both just fun teams to watch, lighting it up there. Obviously, we know the Ravens run the ball; they're the best in the league at rushing the football. So it's a really, really exciting matchup here um, to see these two teams go against each other. But yeah, rush yards against per game, the Ravens are number one, and rushing they're number one. So when you got it that's the line of scrimmage kind of on both sides of the football. That's going to be tough to overcome. If they can both live up to those numbers there, then it's going to be tough for the Bills to run against this Ravens team. Now it's about Josh Allen sort of putting the team on his shoulder, finding those receivers, and delivering the ball.
Yeah, you mentioned that Ravens defense, as good as they are against the run, not that good against the pass.
Yeah,
31st in the league at almost 250 yards a game. But do the Bills have the player that can get loose against them? We have Amari Cooper's been kind of quiet since he's been there.
yeah,
Had some plays where he showed up, but not every week. Domination there.
right.
Kincaid's getting a little healthier at the tight end position there, so they do have the
Shakir had a
nice
really nice
one-two
game last
punch.
week too.
Yeah.
He really contributed there, and Keon Coleman was banged up a little bit. He's kind of back in the mix there as well. Mac Hollins had a big play last week too, so they
Mhm.
really did get the ball. He did, Josh Allen did a great job moving that football around to different dudes. But yeah, it's going to be tough because ultimately the Ravens are going to try and take away the running game, and then it's going to be up to Josh Allen. He's been very mistake free this year, and that's been the key to their success really this year, as opposed to previous years. That's the key probably to this game. Who can uh, you know play a clean football game? Who can execute and have a balanced offense, and who can take care of the football?
And dude, if both of these QBs live up to that league MVP hype, we're
Ooh,
in for a tasty, tasty game. And if you can beat these Bills or if you can beat these Ravens, your prize is most likely going to Arrowhead to take on Patrick Mahomes and those Chiefs. If somehow they lose against the Texans, you're going to get to host that AFC Championship.
woo!
I don't see that happening, dude.
Yeah, I don't
So
see that happening either, but that would be a tasty scenario for either of these two fan bases to suddenly have that thing fall into their laps there. This game right here in front of them is their only focus right now, though.
oh, baby, it is going to be sweet, Dave. How stoked are you, bro?
Oh, dude, I am completely and totally stoked over this weekend. It's about the best weekend. We've always said this for
Mhm.
years. When you got the top 8 teams playing each other, these ones are so hard to predict. We just know that these teams deserve to be here, and it's going to be exciting to see them battle it out.
Tasty, so tasty. Love it.
All right, so many ways to check out the Football Dudes Trend Zone, available for subscription: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Look for the Football Dudes. We are there. Like us on Instagram and Facebook, and follow us on X at Football Dudes LA. And make sure you tag us across all social media platforms.
Or just go to footballdudes.com. It's all there for you. That is going to do it for this episode of the Trend Zone. We're not the suits that talk football, we're the dudes that know football. For Casey, I'm Dave, and we are out of here.